Hey guys, welcome back to a brand new video. In this video, we will discuss everything you need to know about UK visit visa. So in this video, we will discuss the different types of visit visa, the documents required, the fee, and lastly, I will remove some of the confusions that a lot of people have. So first, let's discuss the types of visit visa. There are two types of visit visa. Family visit visa, which is used to invite close family members like your brother, your parents, or any other immediate relatives. And secondly, there is general visit visa, which is used to invite anyone else. The document requirements and everything else remains the same for both of them, so it should not be a problem. Now let's discuss the documents required. This is the most important part. Initially, from your side, you will need to provide a proof of status and settlement, meaning what type of visa are you on. Are you living in UK as a permanent resident with ILR, or are you on a spouse visa or any other kind of visa? You will have to clearly state that and give proof for that. Secondly, you will have to get a declaration of sponsorship which can be found on the Home Office website and you can easily look it up on Google. In this declaration document, you will have to state basic information about yourself like where you live, what you do, what is your name, your contact information, all these basic things. Next up, you have to provide financial proof with the sponsorship letter. Now this is very important. Your financial proof should be sufficient because the visa officer wants to know can you actually afford a visitor with you in the UK. Because for example, if you're making around £5,000 per month but your expenses are already 4,000 or 4,500 pounds, you clearly cannot afford another person living with you in the UK. And that definitely reduces your chances of getting the visa approval. So showing strong financials can help you a lot with your visa approval. Hence why you should state clearly what are your finances, what are your expenses, and include any relevant documents with the letter. In the finances, you must also include a work contract. If you're working as an employee, whether it be a part-time job or a full-time job, you must provide the work contract. Now in case you're self-employed, instead of the work contract, you can instead give a tax report which clearly states your expenses and your income for the business in a year. Next, you will also need to provide a 6-month bank statement with your letter. The financial documents are extremely important because the visa officer wants to know can you actually afford someone living with you in the UK. And strong finances lead to better chances of visa approval. So try to get your finances as strong as possible or at least get them as clear as possible with the documentation. Provide as much proof as possible that you're financially strong and you can afford a visitor with you in the UK. Next, you will need to provide documentation that proves to the visa officer that you can actually afford the living of the visitor as well. Whether you want him to live with you in your own house or whether you want to book a hotel room for him. So for this, in case you have your own house, you will need to provide the land registration documents, meaning you will need to provide proof that you are the legal and actual owner of the house that you live in and you can afford another person living with you in that same house. In case you are a tenant and you don't have your own house, you will need to provide the tenancy agreement, which clearly states that you are living in this house as a tenant and you can actually afford another person with you. Now along with these documents, if you can get an inspection letter which will state how many bedrooms you have and if you have a spare bedroom, that really helps with your visa approval. Because for example, if you're living in your own house or as a tenant in someone else's house, if you have 4 bedrooms and you're currently using only 3 and you have a spare bedroom, the inspection letter which you can get from your council or a real estate agency will clearly state that there are 4 total bedrooms in this house and 3 are in use and one of them is still a spare bedroom while 3 are in use. And if you have a spare bedroom, that clearly states to the visa officer that you can afford a person with you as a visitor in the UK. Along with that, if you can get an assessment from a solicitor which further solidifies the fact that you are the actual owner or you are the tenant in this house, that helps a lot as well. Because that is a legal proof that all your documentations are valid and legal and you are actually legally the owner or the tenant of this house. Now in case you are living with someone else or you don't actually have a spare bedroom to show with the documentation, you can actually pre-book a room in a hotel for your visitor. Now it is recommended to pre-book the room at least 3 months prior to the visa application process because it takes around 3 months for the whole process. Now pre-booking does not take much cost and you don't have to pay the whole cost of the room upfront. So you can just pre-book a room in a hotel just to prove that the visitor coming to you in the UK has a place of residence and he can live there comfortably. Now these are all the documents that you need to provide from your side as a sponsor. As a visitor from the other end, whether it be someone you know or a relative, a close relative, they also need to provide some documentations which include a passport that is valid for at least 6 months, financial proof from their end that they can actually afford to visit UK and they can actually afford their own expenses on their own end. Even though you do provide financial proof that you can take on the expenses of the visitor and you take the responsibility of doing so, they still have to provide financial grounds that they can live in the UK as a visitor on their own as well. And another thing that you need to clearly prove to the visa officer is ties to the home country. This means that the visitor coming to the UK does not plan on living here or getting settled, but he actually plans on just visiting the UK and then going back to his own country. Now there are several ways to show ties to the home country. If the visitor has any assets or a family in the home country, that is a really good way of proving ties to your home country and proving to the visa officer that you do not plan on settling in the UK. The assets include any business you have, any property, a house, anything else. And the family includes if you're married, your kids, your wife, or your other family members like your parents. If they live in your home country and you are coming to the UK as a visitor, you should clearly state that your family is still living in your home country and you do not plan to settle here in the UK. Because a lot of people try to live illegally in the UK and the visa officer clearly does not want that to happen. So those are all the documents that you need. Now let's discuss the fee structure for the visa. The fees for the visa are stated below. For standard visitor visa for academics, it is £200 for a total max duration of 12 months. For a 2-year long standard visitor visa, it is £375 for 6 months per visit at a time. For a 5-year long-term standard visitor visa, it is £670 for 6 months per visit at most. And for a 10-year long-term standard visitor visa, it is £837 for 6 months per visit at max. Now keep in mind, these are just the visa fees. There are a lot of other costs involved in getting the actual visa and getting the visitor in the UK. Now lastly, I want to resolve some confusions that a lot of people have. First of all, a very common question that is asked is who can actually sponsor someone for a visitor visa? And a sponsor is basically someone who has the ability to invite a friend or a close relative to the UK. A sponsor can be anyone with either an ILR. A sponsor can be anyone who is permanently settled in the UK and has proof to show for it. So if you are living in the UK and you have ILR, you can easily sponsor anyone you want. Next up, another question that is commonly asked is a British passport necessary to sponsor someone? And it is not necessary at all. If you have solid grounds and solid proof that you are settled in the UK and you are a permanent resident of the UK, you can easily sponsor anyone you want and you don't actually need a British passport, though it does help. How long does the processing take? The entire process of getting a visitor visa takes around 3 months. So it is quite a long process, and that is why it is recommended to start preparing for it as soon as possible. And lastly, I want to give you some tips to maximize your chances of getting the visa approved. First up, show as much financial proof as possible. As I said, financial proof is one of the main bases that the visa officer checks because they don't want anyone to come to the UK who cannot actually afford to live here and be a burden on the country. So for example, if you are living here on financial aids and you don't actually have a proper job or you don't actually have solid financial grounds here, the chances of your visitor visa getting approved are very low. Secondly, showing strong ties to your home country is also very important. Make sure to give as much proof as possible that the visitor that you're inviting does not plan on getting permanently settled in the UK and he will return after the declared duration. So that's it for this video. If you have any questions, make sure to leave a comment down below and I'll try my best to answer you. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a like and subscribe for more. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching.